next. If you're not with somebody, you're pursuing somebody. If you haven't broken up with someone, then you're on the hunt for that next relationship. And I've come to see now how empty, how selfish, how shallow my practice of love was. And I believe, as we talk about searching for true love, that mankind's search for true love can only be met in the person and work of Jesus Christ. And until we understand that, we will spend our lives searching in vain. We'll never find contentment. We'll never experience true love, and we'll never learn to practice love as God defines it. You're nothing without love. You're nothing without love. That was the message of Paul's famous chapter on love in his letter to the Corinthians. He was saying that it doesn't matter how much talent you have or how gifted you might be. Without love, it's meaningless. Love is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. It is not rude. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Love never fails. Now you might hear that and say, well, that's great, but times have changed. It's a different world. The fact is that not much has changed. This city that Paul was writing to is a lot like the world that you and I live in. Corinth was not a nice place. It had a reputation for being completely immoral. In fact, if you said you were going to play the Corinthian, it was another way of saying that you were going to give yourself to sexual pleasure. The word prostitute could also be Corinthian girl. That's the kind of place that Paul was writing about true love to. It would be the equivalent of writing a letter on family values to Hollywood today. Good luck. Who is going to listen? Who's going to care? This bustling cosmopolitan port town had actually elevated sex to a religious pursuit. The temple of Aphrodite, the Greek goddess of love, had 1,000 prostitutes. You see, the struggle we face today is very much the same. More than ever, sex is a commodity. Sensuality shouts at us from every corner, from newsstands and from billboards. Love is sex, a magazine ad whispers to us. Sex is pleasure, the movie tells us. And on the radio, in song after song, we're given this message: that pleasure is all that matters. You see, just as in Corinth, we have to fight through the lies of our culture to get to a true definition of love. So the question is, what does God have to say about true love? Let's look at 3 things the Bible tells us about true love. The first is this: true love lays down its life for others. True love lays down its life for others. John 15:13 says, "Greater love has no one than this, that he lay down his life for his friends." True love is selfless. It places the needs of other people before its own. It lays down its life. Now, what I want you to recognize is that this is not just grand, heroic kinds of things of laying your life down, actually dying for somebody else. It's too easy for us to just think of those kinds of things. I mean, you talk about laying your life down with a group of guys, and they're going to go into Rambo mode and be like, man, if we were in Nam together, I would throw myself on that grenade for you, buddy. You know, that's great. That's a good thing. But what we can't miss is that laying your life down takes place in very practical, everyday situations when we choose to do the thing not that's just best for us, but to do the thing that's best for somebody else. And that's where selfless love affects the way we approach romance and relationships. I met this couple just a few months after they got married, Eric and Leslie. They were driving through town, so they stopped by and we had dinner together. Now, you would be hard-pressed to find a more romantic couple than Eric and Leslie. I'm talking mush city, okay? They just got married, so they're excused in being like this. But I wanted to take them out to one of my favorite Chinese restaurants. So we get in the car. I'm driving. Eric is sitting in the front seat. Leslie is sitting in the back seat. Eric reaches his hand behind the seat. Leslie reaches forward and clasps his. They're holding hands with one in the front and one in the back. And I'm just like, oh, please, you know? And this is just the start of the night. We go out to dinner, and they're telling me about their relationship and how God led them together and how he was faithful to them. And the whole time, I mean, they just can't stop oohing and awing at each other. So at the end, I mean, I'm about to throw up my Kung Pao chicken, you know? So I said to him, okay, obviously you guys are passionately in love with one another, but let me ask you this. What was it like, you know, when you were engaged, before you got married? Was it difficult keeping your hands off one another and maintaining purity in your relationship? Eric looked at me and he said, of course we had to be careful and we had to guard that. But you know what, Josh? From the very beginning of our relationship, we made a commitment that we were going to protect the other person's purity. You know what, Josh? We didn't kiss until we got married. Our first kiss was at the altar. And I was sitting there in this Chinese restaurant going. And then he said this. I'll never forget this. So powerful. He said, you know, it wasn't about rules. It wasn't some legalistic thing that we were doing. Josh, for us, it was a way to show our love to the other person. Would they have liked to kiss each other? Oh, you bet they would have liked to have kissed each other. Could they have come up with reasons why it was okay? I'm sure they could have. But you know what they were doing instead? They were choosing to lay down their life for the other person. They were choosing to say, maybe this could please me now, but you know what? I want to think about what's best for you in the long term, and so I'm not going to start something before we're married that we're not allowed to get involved in. I'm going to protect your purity. They were laying down their life for each other. They were choosing what was best for the other person. And you know why that so challenged me? Because there are so many times in my life where I failed to practice that kind of selfless love. And there are so many people that I've talked to who have used love as the excuse for doing the exact opposite of what Eric and Leslie did. How many people have you talked to that have said, well, yeah, we slept together, but we felt it was time to show our love? That's not love. That's selfishness. That's lust. I think of the relationship that I was in high school. You know, I started this relationship, and so many things about it were displeasing to God. I was having it behind my parents' back. I'd sneak out at night, talk to her on the phone. My folks had no idea. I was really deceived them in many ways. We had a physical relationship right off the bat, which was sinful. We were disobeying God. Fortunately, we remained virgins through that relationship, and yet there was so much compromise. And you know what I think about? I think about the many times that I said to her, I love you. I love you. And I look back on that, and those words are so empty. Because love is not just something that you say with your mouth. Love is not just something that you feel, some emotion. True love lays down its life. True love is selfless. And I wasn't practicing selfless love in that relationship. If I'd been doing what was best for her, you know what I would have changed? I wouldn't have been in the relationship to begin with. I was distracting her as a new Christian. I was distracting her from focusing on God. I was stealing her attention from the Lord and placing it on myself. I was tearing down her purity. That's not selfless love. That's not love as God defines it. Are you laying your life down for others? Or are you pursuing a relationship when you know the timing is wrong, the focus is sinful, and it has the potential to break another person's heart? Stop.